The cowboy left his huge Apache bride all alone. Next day, the tribe showed up, wanting things made right. Boone Carter woke up by himself. The morning sun came in through the cabin window, lighting up the empty spot where Ayanna should have been. Next to him, her wedding dress was all wrinkled on the wooden floor, like a promise someone threw away. The special Apache beads from her hair were tossed around the room, like she dropped them in a rush. But Boone remembered her going away. Or did. His head hurt as bits of last night flashed in his mind. The wedding, her big presence next to him at the altar, the way the Apache elders looked at him with eyes that saw right into his heart. And then nothing. A blank spot in his memory where something big should be. On the table was a folded piece of deer skin he didn't remember seeing. Apache symbols were cut into the leather, symbols he couldn't read, but he felt they were super important, really important. The cabin felt off, way too quiet. In a spot where two groups of people had just joined through a wedding, there should be happy sounds coming from outside. Instead, there was this weird silence that gave him chills. Boone went outside and stopped dead. His horse was gone. Not stolen, just gone like it never was there. But in the dirt where it should be tied, there were hoof prints, lots of them, all going the same way east toward Apache land. That's when he heard it, a sound that didn't fit in his world. War drums far away, getting louder every second, coming nearer. Something went really wrong with his marriage to Ayanna. But as Boone stared at those, hoofprints heading to a whole tribe of Apache warriors, he started to get that what he couldn't remember from last night might be the only thing to save his life today. The war drums were getting closer. Boone could feel the shakes through the cabin floor. He grabbed the deerskin piece from the table, looking at the carved Apache symbols. His hands shook as bits of memory started coming back. The wedding was beautiful. Ayanna stood next to him, almost a head taller than most guys he knew, her being there making everyone respect her. Her dad, Chief Takakota, did the special rites that joined their groups through marriage. But something changed after the promises. Boone closed his eyes, making himself remember. The Apache elders gave him a cup of special drink, bitter plants mixed with water from their holy spring. He paused. The taste was strange, weird. Ayanna watched him with those dark, smart eyes as he drank. Then the real trouble began. "You can't share my bed if you can't share my ways," Ayanna said softly in their private wedding room. Her voice had no mad, just sad letdown. She started taking off her wedding dress slowly, on purpose, showing the old-style Apache tattoos that marked her as a fighter. Scars from fights he never did. Wins he could never get. Boone freaked out. The truth of what he signed up for hit him hard, like a real punch. This wasn't just getting married. It was mixing two totally different worlds. Ayanna wasn't just a lady. She was a bridge between groups, and he was supposed to walk that bridge with her. "I need time," he whispered. "Time for what?" she asked, but her eyes already knew. He waited until she was asleep, then sneaked out like a scaredy cat in the dark, left his own wedding bed, his own wife, sleeping alone on their first night. The shame burned in his chest now as the full memory came back. The drumming stopped all at once. Boone went onto his porch and saw them on the hill, and Apache warriors on horses, their paint shining in the morning sun. In the middle rode Chief Takakota, Ayanna's dad. Even from far, Boone could see the war paint on the chief's face. Behind the chief sat Ayanna herself, no longer in her wedding dress, but in full fighter clothes. She looked like she fit with those tough fighters. Strong, scary, totally not fitting in Boone's simple world. But it was the guy next to her that made Boone's blood go cold. Kuruk, her brother, the tribe's scariest warrior, the Apache brave who never lost a fight and who made it clear during the wedding talks that he didn't like giving his sister to a white guy. The war group started coming down toward his cabin, moving like pros who came to get what they're owed. And Boone got more scared, realizing he had no clue what they wanted to take. Chief Takakota got off his horse 50 yards from Boone's cabin. The other warriors stayed on horses, making a perfect half circle that blocked every way out. Boone's mouth got dry as he watched Ayanna get down from her horse with smooth moves. In her fighter outfit, she looked nothing like the woman he married yesterday. The leather and beads showed off her strong body, and the tomahawk on her belt caught the sun like a deadly shine. Boone Carter, Chief Takakota's voice boomed across like far thunder. You have brought shame on both our groups. The chief walked forward slowly, each step careful and steady. His old face showed no feeling, but his eyes burned with held-back anger. Behind him, Kuruk's hand rested easy on his knife handle, a move that looked chill but promised quick hurt. I can explain, Boone called out, though he wasn't sure he could. Explain what? Ayanna spoke for the first time, her voice sharp in the morning air. How you left your wife on your wedding night, how you broke the holy bond between our groups, how you made me look dumb in front of my own tribe. Boone stepped down from his porch, his legs wobbly. I wasn't ready. The wedding, the hopes, everything happened so quick. Ready? Kuruk finally spoke. His English had a strong accent, but was clear. You asked for my sister's hand in marriage. You said the holy promises. You drank from our special cup, but you were not ready. The special cup. Boone remembered. Now it wasn't just plants and water. It was a tying ritual, a sign of joining family lines that went back many years. By drinking it, he agreed to more than marriage. He agreed to become Apache, to live by their rules, to honor their ways. And then he had run. Among my people, Chief Takakota kept going, moving, closer. When a man takes a wife, he becomes in charge of her honor, her safety, her spot in the tribe. When he leaves her, he steals more than her pride. He steals her future. Boone's heart pounded hard. What do you want from me? What we want? Ayanna laughed, but it had no fun. We want our daughter's honor fixed. We want the insult to our tribe fixed. We want justice. The warriors moved on their horses, leather squeaking, metal clicking. The sound sent cold through Boone's body. There are 3 ways this ends, Chief Takakota said, stopping just 10 feet away. First way, you come back with us as Ayanna's husband and live by Apache rules forever. Second, you face Kuruk in a fight to fix the honor you stole. Third way, the chief paused, letting the quiet go on until it hurt. Third way, Boone whispered. Ayanna stepped next to her dad, her dark eyes on Boone with a look he couldn't figure. The third way is the way of scaredy cats, and scaredy cats don't pick how they die. Boone's mind raced through his bad choices. Go back as Ayanna's husband and live under Apache rules forever, leaving everything he knew. Fight Kuruk, sure death against the tribe's best fighter, or die as a scaredy cat. I need time to pick, Boone said, his voice super quiet. Kuruk spit in the dirt. Time? You had all night to think about honor before you sneaked away like a snake. Enough. Chief Takakota raised his hand, quieting his son. Among the Apache, a man who runs from his duties loses the right to pick his end. But Ayanna has asked me to show kindness. Boone looked at his left-behind bride, searching her face for any sign of the nice woman he married. Her look stayed hard as rock. What kindness? Boone asked. You will have until sunset to prove you are worthy of a choice, Chief Takakota said. If you can show real courage, not just for a second, but the courage of a man who gets what he has wrecked, then you may pick your path. How am I supposed to prove that? Ayanna stepped forward, her soft shoes quiet on the hard ground. You want to know what your scaredy cat ways cost? Come with us. See what happens to an Apache woman left by her white husband. See what you did To my place in the tribe. The warriors moved apart as Ayanna went to her horse. She got on easy, like she did it 1,000,000 times, then looked down at Boone with eyes that had no nice. "Get on your horse," she ordered. "My horse is gone. I don't know where. Your horse is in my dad's pen." "We took it when we found you shamed our family." Kuruk's voice was full of hate. "Did you think we would leave you away to run again?" One of the younger warriors brought Boone's horse forward. The animal seemed jumpy, ears moving back and forth like it felt the bad vibes. Boone came close slowly, his legs shaky. "Where are we going?" he asked as he got in the saddle. "To the reservation," Chief Takakota said. "To see the women who were once Ayanna's friends, to see the warriors who once respected her as a fight buddy, to see what they think of her now that her white husband has said no to her in front of everyone." The war group started moving, putting Boone in the middle of them. He had no choice but to ride along, stuck between painted warriors who saw him as less than a person. As they went over the first hill, Ayanna rode up next to him. This close, he could see how tired her eyes looked, the way her shoulders carried a heavy load that wasn't there at their wedding. "You think this is about you?" she said quietly, just for him to hear. "You think your fear and shame are what count here. But you wrecked more than just a marriage yesterday." "What do you mean?" Ayanna's jaw got tight. "You'll see. And when you do, you'll get why kindness is the last thing you deserve." The Apache reservation spread out like a hurt in the ground. Dozens of simple homes dotted the land, smoke going up from cooking fires into the hot midday sun. As the war group got close, people started coming out of their homes. But something was wrong. The women who came out to watch didn't wave or say hi to Ayanna as they went by. Instead, they turned away, some pulling their kids inside. The men by the horse pen looked at her with faces from sad to grossed out. "You see it now," Ayanna said, her voice almost breaking. "A fighter woman who can't even keep her white husband for one night. What does that say about her strength, her worth as an Apache?" Boone felt sick as he started to understand. In Apache ways, a woman's honor was linked to her husband's respect for her. By leaving Ayanna so everyone knew, he wrecked more than their marriage. He wrecked her name as a fighter. Chief Takakota rode up to an old woman sitting outside a home, working on beads. She looked up as they came, her old face wrinkling with not liking. Grandmother Istas, the chief, said all proper. "What do the women say about my daughter now?" The old woman put down her beads and stood slow, her eyes on Ayanna with clear letdown. "They say she chose bad," Grandmother Istas replied in English with a thick accent, clearly for Boone to hear. "They say a true Apache fighter would have seen the weakness in his heart before tying to him. They say she has brought shame on all Apache women who marry outside the tribe." Ayanna's shoulders got stiff, but she said nothing. "And what do they say should be done?" Chief Takakota asked. "They say she cannot lead warriors into battle anymore. How can men follow a woman who could not even get respect from her own husband? They say she must prove her worth again, as if she were a kid learning to fight." The words hit Boone like real hits. Ayanna had been a war leader, one of the few women in Apache history to boss male fighters in battles. His scaredy-cat ways had taken away everything she worked her whole life for. "There's more," Kuruk said, his voice full of held-back mad. "Tell him about the council meeting." Grandmother Istas nodded serious. "The tribal council met this morning. They say if Ayanna cannot control her white husband, then maybe no Apache should trust white men's promises. They are talking about breaking the peace deal with the nearby towns." Boone's blood went cold. The peace deal. "Years of peace," Chief Takakota said, his voice tired. "Years of my people learning to live next to white settlers without fighting, all of it in danger, because my daughter's husband proved that white men's words mean nothing." The big picture hit Boone like a snowslide. His own scaredy-cat act wasn't just about him and Ayanna anymore. It was about to start a war that had been quiet for almost 20 years. The council meets again at sunset. Kuruk said, his hand on his tomahawk. If there is no justice for the insult to our family by then, they will vote to end the peace deal. Ayanna finally spoke, her voice like a final say across the quiet reservation. And when that happens, the blood of everyone who dies will be on your hands. The sun was already past high when Boone picked. He couldn't let his scaredy-cat ways start a war that would wreck both groups. I'll face Kuruk in a fight, Boone said loud, breaking the afternoon quiet on the reservation. Kuruk's eyes lit up with wild happy, but Chief Takakota held up his old hand. You choose death over honor, the chief asked. A fight with my son is not about showing courage. It is about punishment for shaming my daughter. Then what would show courage? Boone asked, sounding desperate. Ayanna had been quiet most of the day, but now she stepped up. Her fighter smart seemed to be thinking as she looked at Boone's face. There is one way, she said slow, but it would need you to risk everything you are, to save what you wrecked. Tell me. The tribal council fears that white men's promises are junk because you broke your holy promise to me. Ayanna explained. They believe that if one white man can leave his Apache wife so easy, then the peace deal itself means nothing to your people. Boone nodded, starting to get it. But Ayanna kept going. If that same white man were willing to give up everything he owns, everything he is to honor his promise, that might show the council that some white men's promises do have meaning. What are you asking me to do? Chief Takakota stepped up. Return with us as Ayanna's husband, not as a white man who married an Apache woman, but as a white man who became Apache. Live by our rules, follow our customs, raise your kids in our ways, forever. The word hung like a bad end. Forever meant leaving. His ranch, his cows, his whole life way. It meant learning a new talk, new habits, new beliefs. It meant becoming someone totally different. And if I say no, Boone asked. Then the council votes at sunset to end the peace deal, Kuruk said with dark. Happy. And by tomorrow morning, Apache warriors will be attacking every white town within 100 miles. Boone thought about the families he knew, the Hendersons with their 3 little kids, the McCready couple who just started their farm, old Tom Briggs who lived alone but was always nice to travelers. All of them would get caught in the fighting that his actions started. But there's something else you need to get, Ayanna said, her voice almost a whisper. If you agree to this, it can't be fake. The Apache people will watch you every day for the rest of your life. One sign that you are not really in. One time where you try to go back to your old ways, and they will know you are still the same scaredy-cat who ran from his wedding bed. How will I know if I can do it? Boone asked for real. Ayanna's face softened a bit. The first break in her fighter mask he saw all day. You won't know until you try, she said. But I will know, and I will not give you another chance to wreck everything I've worked to fix. The shadows were getting long when Boone gave his answer. I'll do it, he said, the words feeling weird in his mouth. I'll become Apache. But even as he said it, doubt ate at his gut. Could he really leave everything he ever knew? Could he learn to live by rules, in ways that felt strange to all he knew about life? Kuruk stepped closer, his dark eyes checking Boone's face for lies. You think this is about saying words? Kuruk's voice was low and scary. You think you can say promises and sneak away again when life gets hard? No, Boone said, though his voice didn't sound sure. My sister believed your words once. Kuruk kept going. She stood before our whole tribe and said you were good. She told our dad that you got what marriage to an Apache woman meant. She was wrong. Then why should we believe you are not lying now? The question hit Boone hard because he wasn't sure he could answer it true. How could he promise to keep promises when he already showed he could break the biggest one? Chief Takakota looked at Boone with the calm of a man who read warriors' hearts for years before fights. "Words are like wind," the chief said at last. "Among the Apache, a man shows his promise through doing, through giving up, through lasting what others can't." "What kind of giving up?" "Everything," Ayana said. "Simple. Your ranch, your cows, your money, your stuff, all of it will be sold. And the money given to the families of Apache warriors who died fighting white soldiers in old fights. You can't keep one foot in the white world while saying you belong to ours." Boone felt his breath stop. His ranch was not just land. It was 15 years of hard work. Every fence he put in himself, every building he built with his own sweat. It was his whole grown-up life. And there's more. "Chief," Takakota added, "you will do the trial of joining. 7 days and nights in the wild with nothing but the clothes you have and the smarts you know. If you live using Apache ways, finding food our way, making shelter our way, reading the land our way, then the tribe will think about taking you in. What if I fail?" "Men who fail the trial of joining do not come back," Kuruk said straight. "The wild takes them or they take themselves. Either way, their weakness is shown." Boone looked at the faces watching him. Some showed wonder, others doubt. But all had the same question underneath. Was this white man able to change like he said he wanted? "But first," Ayana said, her voice breaking his spinning thoughts, "you must face the tribal council and get them to wait on the vote for the peace deal. They meet in 1 hour. If they decide to end the deal before you can prove yourself, then your joining trial means nothing." The heavy load of impossible hopes sat on Boone's shoulders like heavy metal. He had to get a council of Apache leaders who had every reason not to trust white men. He had to show he was worthy of ways he hardly knew, and he had to do it all while knowing failing meant deaths of good people, on both sides of a war he started with his scaredy-cat act. 1 hour, he whispered more to himself than them. 1 hour, Ayana said yes, and Boone, this time, there's no place left to run. The tribal council sat in a circle around a small fire, their faces painted with the old marks of deciding, of the most honored Apache elders, men and women who guided the tribe through years of fights and peace. Their eyes held the built-up smarts and hurt of people who learned not to trust quick. Boone stood in the middle of the circle, feeling tinier than ever. Chief Takakota spoke first, his voice all official like tribe rules. "Boone Carter, you have asked for the chance to show your promise to our people. But first, the council must hear your words. Tell us why we should wait on our vote for the peace deal. Tell us why we should trust the promise of a man who broke his most holy vow." The quiet after felt heavy enough to smash him. Boone looked around the circle, seeing doubt and mad in most faces. These were not folks who would be won by fancy talks or sorries with no meaning. "I can't tell you why you should trust me," Boone said at last, his voice steadier than he felt, "because I don't deserve your trust. Showed that when I ran from my wedding bed like a scaredy cat. Murmurs of yeah rippled around the circle. But I can tell you what, I've learned today." Boone kept going. "I learned that my scaredy cat act didn't just hurt Ayana. It wrecked her place as a fighter. It put in danger the peace that 17 years of smart leading built. It put good people on both sides at risk of dying, and old woman with silver hair braids leaned forward. "Learning is not enough, white man. Kids learn, fighters do." "You're right," Boone said, "and that's why I'm not asking you to trust my words. I'm asking you to let me show my promise through doing. Give me 7 days to prove I can live as an Apache. Let me give up everything I own to help Apache families. Let me earn the right to call myself Ayana's husband. And if you fail," another elder asked, "then the wild will fix the problem of my broken promises for good." Kuruk stood up from his spot in the circle. My sister's honor has been hurt by this man's scaredy-cat ways. No trial in the wild can fix what he took from her. But Ayana herself stepped up, surprising all. "Brother, you talk of my honor like it's yours," she said, her voice strong like a pro fighter. "But my honor is mine to fix. If this man is willing to risk his life to show his promise, then I am willing to let him try." The council members looked at each other, their quiet talks saying a lot about the big choice. Chief Takakota stood slow. "The vote on the peace deal will wait for 7 days. If Boone Carter lives through the trial of joining, we will see his promise as shown. If he fails, the chief let the words hang without end. The trial starts at dawn." He kept going. "You will be taken deep into Apache land and left with nothing but the clothes you wear. Days later, if you come back to this spot alive and having shown Apache living skills, the peace deal will stay." Boone felt a mix of scared and relief wash over him. But as the council started to leave, he saw Ayana's face in the firelight. Her look was hard to read, but her eyes had a question that chilled him deep. Was he about to show he was a real man or just find a fancier way to mess up? 7 days later, as the sun got to its highest, a figure came out from the wild. Boone Carter looked nothing like the man who was taken into Apache land a week before. His face was thinner, marked by sun and wind, with the sharp focus of someone who learned to hear every sound in the woods. His clothes were ripped but working, fixed with plant strings using ways that take years to learn. Most telling were his hands, scarred from making fire without matches, rough from making tools from stone and wood. The tribal council waited in the same circle where they voted to give him this shot. Chief Takakota looked at the coming figure with the eye of a fighter who lived through many tests himself. "Show us what you have learned," the chief ordered. Without talking, Boone showed the skills that kept him alive. He started a fire using the Apache rubbing way, the flames starting on his first try. He pointed out plants you can eat and told how to make them safe. He showed the rabbit traps he built, the water-cleaning ways he learned, the shelter building that kept him safe from 2 nights of bad storms. But it was his last show that proved his change. From his quick-made pack, Boone pulled out a piece of carved wood, a small but perfect Apache prayer stick with symbols that showed deep knowing of tribe spirit beliefs. "I made this on the 6th night," Boone said, giving the prayer stick to Chief Takakota. "When I got that, living in your land wasn't about beating it, but about being part of it." The chief checked the carving, his old face showing surprise at how good it was. "You learned our holy symbols in 7 days. "I learned to listen," Boone replied. "To the wind, to the animals, to the voices of Apache old ones in the stones and trees. I learned that being Apache isn't about being born here. It's about getting that you belong to the land, not the other way around." Ayana stepped up, her eyes looking at her husband with a look he never saw before, respect mixed with careful hope. "The trial is done," Chief Takakota said to the gathered tribe. "Boone Carter has shown his promise through doing, not words. He will be welcomed as an Apache, and the peace deal will stand." The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some nodded okay, others stayed doubtful, but all agreed he did what few white men could. But Ayana's answer was what counted most. "Will you run again when Apache life gets hard?" she asked, quiet. "Just for him." Boone looked into her eyes, seeing not just the fighter who scared him before, but the woman he was too scared to value. "I spent 7 days learning that running from hard stuff is what makes a man weak," he said. "I won't make that mistake again." For the first time since their wedding, Ayana smiled. Months later, when white settlers in the area talked of Boone Carter, they shook their heads in wonder. The man who once had one of the biggest ranches in the land now lived in an Apache home, spoke Apache like a pro, and was known as one of the best hunters and trackers in the tribe. More important, The peace between the Apache and white settlers had gotten stronger, not weaker. Boone had become a bridge between the two worlds, showing that some promises once truly made could be kept. And when tribe fighters talked of courage around evening fires, they sometimes told the story of the white man who found his strength not by beating his fears, but by finally staying put and facing them. If you enjoyed this story, click the video on your screen now to watch another unforgettable Western tale where honor and justice collide in ways you never expected. Don't forget to subscribe and consider a super chat to help us. Keep bringing you more stories like these. Your support means everything to us.